This question comes from Alex, who asks, what would happen if you put soap next to pepper in water?
At first glance, this sounds like a kitchen trick rather than a scientific puzzle.
The short answer is that the pepper would suddenly rush away. The soap would spread out dramatically. You'd feel like you just performed some kind of household magic show.
The long answer is that you've staged a miniature lesson in chemistry, fluid dynamics, and maybe even hand washing.
To begin, imagine you have a bowl of water. You sprinkle black pepper on top.
The flakes float, not because pepper likes water, but because the flakes are tiny, light, and held up by surface tension.
Surface tension is the invisible skin on water, created because water molecules cling tightly, like holding hands.
This invisible network can hold up small objects that would otherwise sink, like needles or pepper flakes. This is why water striders can walk across ponds without falling in.
Now you take a drop of liquid soap and carefully touch it to the water. At this point, if you're 8 years old, you yell, "I'm a wizard!" and demand to show your parents.
But what actually happened is something both more ordinary and more impressive.
Soap molecules are shaped in a peculiar way. One side loves water, the other hates water but loves grease.
This dual personality is why soap can clean things. One end grabs dirt or oil, the other clings to water.
When you add soap to the pepper bowl, molecules break into the water's surface tension network.
They wedge themselves between the hand-holding water molecules, forcing them apart like rowdy strangers in a crowd.
The pepper flakes don't move on their own, but water rearrangement sweeps them away like invisible brooms. This sudden movement is due to what scientists call the Marangoni effect.
It sounds like an Italian dessert, but it's actually a physics principle.
Liquids flow from areas of low surface tension to areas of high surface tension.
Adding soap lowers the surface tension where the soap lands. Water at the edges pulls more strongly than near the soap, creating outward flow. The imbalance makes a flow outward, like invisible conveyor belts dragging pepper away. In theory, if you kept adding soap, you could keep pushing the pepper until it reached the edge of the bowl. In practice, after a few seconds, the effect stops. The soap quickly spreads across the surface, equalizing the tension everywhere.
Once the imbalance is gone, so is the magical fleeing pepper trick.
The pepper just sits there, unimpressed, waiting for you to explain to your confused audience what happened.
Now, you might be wondering, could this simple trick be scaled up?
What if, instead of a cereal bowl, we tried this on, say, a lake?
Well, people have. Sailors once poured oil onto stormy seas to calm the waves.
Benjamin Franklin wrote about pouring oil into a pond in London, watching it spread into a mirror-like sheet.
Of course, dumping dish soap into your local lake is not recommended, unless you want to be in trouble with the Environmental Protection Agency, the Coast Guard, and your neighbors.
If you poured industrial amounts of soap into a lake, you'd see the same Marangoni-driven motion.
Lighter particles would rush away from the soapy region, creating strange circular clearings. In practice, the effect would be overwhelmed by currents, wind, and messy real lakes. In practice, the effect would be overwhelmed by currents, wind, and messy real lakes. Still, the principle scales up in fascinating ways. Soap doesn't just scatter pepper. The same physics can move bacteria, drug particles, or even tiny robots. Imagine a boat powered by dish soap drops, pushed forward by Marangoni flows. Kids sometimes build these soap boats in science fairs, racing them across trays of water.
So what happens if you put soap next to pepper in water? On the surface, it's just a fun kitchen trick, but under the surface, literally, it's a demonstration of surface tension, molecular chemistry, and fluid dynamics. It shows why soap cleans your hands, why boats can be powered by detergent, and why physics sometimes looks like magic. If you try it yourself, you'll see pepper fleeing in terror. and you can feel like a wizard.
And that is the real answer. The pepper runs, the soap spreads, and for a moment, physics looks like stage magic.
Just don't try it on Niagara Falls, or the Environmental Protection Agency really will come knocking.